Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good morning. We'd like to welcome all the participants and attendees to our webinar session organized by MPC, Malaysian Productivity Council. And with me, we have two very distinguished guests. The first one is Yang Berbahagia Dato Abdul Latif bin Haji Abu Seman, the Director General for the Malaysian Productivity Corporation, MPC. And another guest with me is Yang Berbahagia Dato Dr. Insinyur Mohd Abdul Karim bin Abdullah, the Chief Executive Officer for Serba Dinamik Holding Sdn Bhd. Dato Latif, Assalamualaikum, good morning. Dato Karim, Assalamualaikum, good morning. How are you both today?
Fine, thank you very much. Thank you, Alhamdulillah.
Fine, Alhamdulillah.
So MCO day 30, day 30, phase 3. So we are in the third phase of the MCO and most likely going to continue. So very interesting time. If you ask me last year, 2019, what's 2020 going to be? I will say it's going to be a great year, but now it looks like a very challenging year for almost everybody. Maybe I'll start a little bit. I introduce myself first. My name is Abdullah. I'm from Universiti Malaysia Sarawak, and I'll be the moderator for this session. It's going to be a 1-hour session, and the title for this session is Post-COVID-19, How to Reboot Your Business Model. Before I go to the actual discussion, maybe saya nak tanya, I want to ask Dato Latif first. Dato, what is the single thing that you miss the most during this MCO, the Movement Control Order?
You know what? I'm a great eater. I like to go out, dining with my family, especially my wife. But then, with this restricted movement, everything is now done online. You get people to deliver, and you can do this through technology. So this is one experience. Of course, we used to do that on occasional basis, but now this is the thing that we just have to embrace. We just have to use technology to get things delivered.
Okay, Dato Latif. Dato Karim, what is the single most thing you miss during MCO?
Well, being an entrepreneur or usahawan, we have a very heavy burden on us to deliver. So because of this MCO, there are so much pressure and expectations and questions being put on us, whether our projection and trajectory, profitability and so on is still achievable or not. So I think this is something which is very extraordinary in this MCO situation.
Okay, thank you, Dato. So to all attendees and participants, again, once more, welcome. Assalamualaikum, very good morning. So we have participants from Malaysia and also we have a few international participants as well. I can see names from Indonesia, I can see names from Germany, from UK and so on. So welcome to everybody, because this COVID-19 pandemic is not just local to Malaysia, but is all over the world. And I'm sure that the topic of discussion today is applicable to everybody. So a few housekeeping before we go to the discussion. To all the attendees, if you have any question later on, you can either post your question to the section provided, and you can also raise your hand if you want to talk directly to any of the guest speaker, which I will try to pick up later. So please feel free to ask questions during the presentation session. We're going to have question and answer session later after the talk by both of our guest speakers. And also there is a chat session as well if you want to post your question to the chat. So it's going to be a 1-hour session. We're going to give our guest speaker time to discuss their thoughts about the title today. And before we go to the session by the speaker, let me introduce them, both our distinguished speaker. First of all, I would like to introduce just now Dato Abdul Latif bin Haji Abu Seman. He is currently the Director General of the Malaysia Productivity Corporation, MPC, based in Petilang Jaya. He was appointed as the 8th Director General of MPC on 26th of August last year. He holds a Bachelor of Economics in Public Admin from Universiti Malaysia and a Master degree in Policy Studies from Seman University, Japan. So long career with MPC. So Dato Latif started his career with MPC in 1984. I was still in primary school, Dato, as a training and investigating officer, and served as the Assistant Regional Head of MPC Serba. then senior consultant at the Directorate of Policy Research, MPC HQ. And he was made the manager of Best Practices Division in August 2000. And then he also served in Sarawak as the MPC Sarawak Regional Director in February 2005. He assumed the position of Deputy Director General MPC in February 2010, and he oversees the Department of Regulatory Review, undertaking comprehensive review of business regulation. So under his stewardship, MPC have successfully collaborated with international government bodies such as the Australian Government Productivity Commission and OECD in establishing Malaysia Quality Regulatory Management System, QRMS. And he also lead the MPC team to improve Malaysia competitiveness and enhancing the country business climate through engagement with the World Bank. So Dato Latif, thank you very much for your contribution. Let me introduce our second guest speaker for today, Dato Karim. So Dato Dr. Insinyur Haji Mohd Abdul Karim bin Abdullah, he is the Group Chief Executive Officer and also the Managing Director for Serba Dinamik Holdings Sdn Bhd. So Dato Karim was born 23rd of May 1965. Sorry Dato, I have to reveal your birth date so people know your age actually. Kuala Baram, Miri, Sarawak. So Dato Karim is the youngest in a family of 5. Parents were teachers and grew up helping them farming watermelon. Graduated with Bachelor in Mechanical Engineering degree from UTM in 1989. Obtained honorary PhD in Industrial Engineering from Inter-American University in 2009 and PhD in Entrepreneurship from the Golden State University, USA in 2012. He is a member of the IEM, Institute Engineers of Malaysia, since 1994. A registered member of the Board of Engineers, BEM, since 1996, and a member of the Asian Federation of Engineering Organization since 2002. He established Serba Dinamik Sdn Bhd in 1993, and this is interesting. So later maybe Dato can highlight a little bit about Serba Dinamik with skeletal staffing and 50,000 ringgit in paid capital. And in February 2017, Dato Karim and his team had successfully listed Serba Dinamik on the main board of KLSC with the market capitalization in excess of 4.53 billion as of April 14, 2020. So under his leadership, Serba Dinamik is present in 24 countries across the world, in Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Singapore, USA, UK, UAE, Bahrain, Mexico, and many others. So Dato Karim is turbo machinery expert. This is also very interesting, Dato. So maybe later you can share a little bit what is turbo machinery, and has always been passionate about technology, digitalization, and innovation. July 2019, he had launched the Industry Revolution 4.0 event, Team Beyond Paradigm Summit. I believe was organized in KL and also in Kuching, whereby Dato managed to bring Sophia, the humanoid robot, as the key attraction. So I was there and met Sophia and also the inventor of Sophia. Very interesting actually. August 2019, Dato Karim became the single largest shareholder of Sarawak Consolidated Industries Berhad, SCIB, and Kumpulan Powernet Berhad, K Powernet. So both companies are listed on Bursa Malaysia. And also a long list of talking engagement and also award as well. So Dato Latif, Dato Karim, thank you very much for your time to join us for our webinar session today. So let's go to our talking point today, Dato Karim, Dato Latif. As I said, so today is MCO Day 30. Very interesting time, very challenging time for us, affect everybody. Our personal life, and also I think what we are going to discuss today is related to business, either SME. So with regard to business, this COVID-19 pandemic affect everybody, from the nasi lemak seller at the roadside to small and medium enterprises, and also to big companies. Affect all verticals, whether it's service industry, whether it's retail, whether it's manufacturing. And we haven't seen the actual economic impact yet. I guess after the pandemic has stopped, and then we're going to see the actual impact on the business, as what a lot of people predicted. So it's going to be another, I would say, recession, maybe bigger than 2008 economic downturn. I think Dato Karim, you have survived a lot of challenges. Maybe later you can share a little bit how you bring Serba Dinamik out of crisis during the 2008 and maybe earlier economic downturn. So we're going to discuss two things. First, the point of discussion is to discuss what businesses can do during this COVID-19 pandemic. And later we're going to discuss what the government, MPC, and also the businesses can do after the pandemic has stopped. So post COVID-19. So Dato Latif, I'll start with you, Dato. So let's talk about during this crisis. What is your opinion? What the businesses can do during this pandemic? We can see a lot of, I would say, opportunity. Even though we are facing crisis, I can see some businesses, either small businesses, SME, and so on, taking this crisis as opportunity. As you mentioned just now, with regard to food, we can see some food sellers that never thought about selling their food online has actually jumped into the bandwagon. I take example in Kuching, Sarawak. What is popular is Laksa Sarawak. So you can order those online as well, and you can get that through GrabFood, or you can get that through Foodpanda, and this is actually very interesting. So Dato Latif, what is your thought during this crisis? What the businesses can do, and what is the current initiative by the government, and also the role of MPC as well? Dato Latif, I turn the session to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Johari, my colleague, Dato Muhammad Abdul Karim. Thank you for being able together in this session, which is organized by MPC Sarawak, together with our friends from the private sector and also with the Universiti Malaysia Sarawak. Now, since COVID-19 was diagnosed, and until today, not less than 190 countries were affected. I know it has a severe impact on businesses, economic growth, on financial standing of countries, institutions, and also even the businesses. There is also to some extent impact on employment, and at the same time it may also lead to some social problems. But of course, these are problems. Many countries have faced it. I think globally, this is not the only time that we had faced before. We have this MERS-CoV situation, SARS, and all that, and not to mention the financial crisis. But let's look at things positively. Right, positively, because in every situation there is always opportunity. When there is a crisis, there is always opportunity. Now we had our Pemuda. I think for many of you are familiar with what Pemuda is. It stands for Pasukan Petugas Khas Pemuda Cara, or in short, Special Task Force to Facilitate Business. It is a public-private partnership which had been set up since the year 2007. All right, we are now in our 13th year. Now, despite all this, we were still able to have our meeting. Last week, we're going to have another one, which is going to be at 2 p.m. today. Now, Pemuda is a platform where we get feedback coming from industries. What are those issues that they have? What are the challenges that they face? What are those burdensome regulations being imposed on them? And the private sector, reps, representative, they raise this issue, and we together, address, those issues through public-private, collaboration. Now, as I've said, we look at, a crisis as, opportunity, and in that meeting, I was just, amused to be informed by one of the members, especially from private sector. He was in the government before, but now he's a corporate figure. He says that government has been talking about going digital. We talk about digital economy. We're talking about really utilizing digital technology to do things, to get services delivered and all that. And I think our former Prime Minister Tun Mahathir had also spoke on this thing about how information technology as an enabler to increase productivity. So when we say that, if we look at this thing at this point of time, crisis, we try to explore what would be opportunities that we can really siege. This is where the private sector member, Pemuda, he says that, do we need, this kind of pandemic such as, COVID-19 to get people to really come on board, to really leverage technology? We have been talking about this thing, and it was interesting. So let me just share with you. I'm going to talk about something which is factual. I won't talk about rhetoric. In the context of MPC itself, when we say that stay at home, doesn't mean that we are not doing anything. We still work, because stay at home, it is not really everyone being given a break. We are asked to stay at home, but we are still asked, to continue contributing to work as usual. Now, since March 18, I have even collected, some figures within context of MPC. Since 18 March, we have 34 digital platform sessions involving more than, I think, close to 8,000 participants. As you know, that MPC, our target group has always been industry. We do a lot of engagement, we do consultation, we do discussion. And under the Malaysia Productivity Blueprint, productivity will be driven by the private sector. We have what we call the Productivity Nexus. There are 9 sectors driven by the Nexus. And each of these nexus, we have what we call champions. Champions, these are people from the industry. They are nominated by industry and they are appointed by the National Productivity Council. So everyone is still, productive. Everyone is still contributing. And we should also be looking at, our pricing strategy, our marketing strategy, the kind of, process that we have in place. We have to look at also even the website that we have, how we do promotion. I think this should be the time that we should review. And relatively, because when you use technology, for example, under this MCO, MPC officers and staff, they are not allowed to go to the office except for essential services. We want to make sure that, systems are still running, delivery is still, taking place. So for people working in the finance section, security, procurement, our IT, and also our technical employee, they are still at the office, but we send them by batches because we want to make sure that systems are still running. So when we say that grabbing, for and seizing for whatever opportunity available, that is where I think if you look at for companies which had invested heavily on technology, on on capital, on IT and all that, especially if they are using robotics, these are the least impacted, companies or businesses by this pandemic. These are the least impacted. So I think this would be the time, rather than, to me, it's a blessing in disguise with this pandemic. You will see that a lot of businesses which were relatively not really that glaring in terms of their performance, that you see them coming out because they were able to really seize the opportunity available. So that's why you see a lot of e-commerce, a lot of electronic online kind of businesses are mushrooming, and you see that even Grab, food delivery. I think this is a business that is also flourishing. So I would also suggest, especially to SMEs, rather than waiting for everything to end, all right, waiting for this pandemic to end, we don't know when, all right, waiting also for the MCO to be lifted. I think this should be the time, not just looking at new ways of how you can still sustain and also survive in this kind of situation to continue with your business, but at the same time you should also be preparing post MCO period, because once everything is over, the pandemic is over, we're going to sail through all this. Will we be in the position to actively respond and bounce back where we were. But definitely, as I've said, things are going to be very different. All right, the landscape of business is going to be very different. And as now we can see that a lot of people are now leveraging technology. That is going to be the way. And I see that this is the future. It is about really doing work. Not necessarily you have to be physically present at your work office. I foresee that employees in future, they will opt to work from the office, not just from home. They can be anywhere, but then they can still work. They can still contribute. They can still engage. They can still do reporting. They can get monitored by their supervisors. Their mechanism in place. How we ensure that output is still there and all that. And this is what technology is all about. And I believe strongly this is the future. And if you look forward within context of MPC, we don't really need big space, to locate, every of our staff and officers, because I did my management work and I realized many of the working space are empty because officers are always on the move. They go out to meet customers. They work from home, but yet they still produce. They still deliver. They still met targets which were given to them. So this is the future, is what I see. At the moment, what we are facing, we have to leverage technology because you cannot be physically, everywhere. We can get things delivered. We can still do engagement. We can still present papers, share our thoughts like what we are doing now. We can also make decisions. I have my weekly, directors meeting every Friday, every Monday. I have my Amanat KP of MPC, which is done every Friday. We want to make sure that we get connected, with our employees. We hear issues that they brought up, and I also share some of the instruction, latest information that I get from my stakeholders, from the ministry and also from the central government, in Putrajaya. So doesn't matter where you are, you can stay home, you can work from home, you can work from anywhere, but you can still remain productive. So it's about really leveraging of technology where we are at the moment. But at the same time, we have to start preparing. Once this thing is all over, we want to be a country that can bounce back fast, because how good we are, it depends very much on two factors. First is about depth of this pandemic. I think the way that we see, we are one of the country that is doing very well. We should and put our hats off to our DG of Health, which has been showing excellent, exemplary leadership, very transparent, providing up-to-date information on daily basis. And if the trend continues at what we see, if the curve of infection is being able to be flattened, if we are an economy that is going to emerge and get out of this pandemic fast, then we are going to be, I think, a lot of opportunity lies, with us, because we are going to be at the forefront to really, seize, whatever opportunity that lies ahead. So it's about depth of the pandemic, how deep we are. If we're able to get out of it fast, then of course we will be, one of the front runners, to grab whatever opportunity lies ahead. Because market out there, we will be the first, because we're able to get out. Two, I think it's about speed of recovery. How do we recover? So again, as I've said, we cannot wait until things, settle down, fully. We have to use technology. We have to start engaging. We have to make, quick decision. We have to re-strategize. We have to review our business model. And at the same time, as I've said, collaboration with the private sector and the government is essential. Okay, so we need to collaborate, because we are talking about the whole of the economy. We're not talking about just the whole of government. We are talking about the whole of a country to address the issue. And I believe we can get out, of this pandemic, of this, very challenging times, and we can emerge stronger. So those are some of my thoughts, on what we are facing at the moment.
Okay, Dr. Latif, thank you very much for your thoughts. We have a few raised hands. I think what I will do, I would like to give the session to Dato Karim first, and later we take a few questions from the attendees. So, Dato Karim, during this crisis, from private or business perspective, can you probably share with us your thoughts about this, and also maybe share experience about Serba Dinamik? As I mentioned, Serba Dinamik started in 1994. I'm sure it has a fair share of going through challenges within the business world. And then two things that I think affect businesses at the moment. One is, of course, cannot operate as usual. And another one that is probably the concern is on unemployment. So those are the two things. So Dato Karim, your thoughts about this during this COVID-19 crisis?
Okay, Dr. Johari, being the moderator, thank you so much for inviting me here. Dato Latif, thank you so much from the MPC side for inviting me here. And as what has been given to me to actually touch on the meeting on long-term plan and action to stimulate the economy post-COVID. And back to Dr. Johari question just now, I just would like to throw out some thoughts that I have over the past few weeks and what personally and also my company has gone through is we are grateful, of course, to the government of the day for issuing the 3 stimulus budget, which has been issued out even though the country is under quite a tight budgetary situation. And it has been very well accepted by the citizens of Malaysia. It covered quite a wide scope of coverage. And of course, it's always not enough. The big players, the PLCs, and other bigger entity is saying that they have been left out because a lot of focus and concentrations and moratorium are more targeted and focused into SMEs. But regardless of whatever the feedback is received, this stimulus package that has been rolled out by the government is very useful, very helpful, and very kind to the government to have this kind of thoughts and this kind of commitment to the people of Malaysia. And I would say that these are very short-term kind of solutions. So it's talking about something like 3 to 6 months. And after that, then that is where the fire will start again. So for me, sustainability has always been the key word in whatever planning that we are doing, especially in our organization, Serba Dinamik. The business plan that we put up, it has to tie up to sustainability. The fundings that we raise, it has to tie up to sustainability. And whatever things that we decide to move on, it has to tie up to sustainability. So here the issue is how will the economy or the community or the rakyat of Malaysia, the people of Malaysia, be facing post-COVID-19. As we know that the economy is a chain of activity within a community, and it involves particularly money transactions, because that is where it will be a means to help to make life move on. And of course, there are other means of transactions which has been put into motion, for example, like cryptocurrency and so on, which is also still struggling to get the recognitions because of the disruptions that it's going to have. But whatever it is, we would see how this cryptocurrency will evolve in months or years to come. So my take is this. There are 4 components within the economy chain. And I emphasize here that all these 4 components is very important to be activated to rejuvenate the economy in the long run, to ensure the sustainability of the business community, which it will impact the livelihood of every individuals in Malaysia. Number 1, it will be the SMEs. Of course, is very, very important component within the cycle of the economy. The PLC, public listed company, is also extremely important There are the big brothers within the enterprises which should play a bigger role to roll out business activities and opportunities to SMEs. And then we will also have the GLC, Government Link Company, required also to play a very important role. Of course, the philosophy has changed from government to government, but I still believe that GLC is very, very important in driving and leading the economy of Malaysia. And the fourth segment will be the MNC, the multinational company. So all this has to work hand in hand, collaborate and support each other so that the chain of the activities can move. But the question now is, how does the economy move? There must be projects, there must be activity for the participations of all these four segments. So that is where post-COVID, we are putting a very high hope that all these four segments, as mentioned just now, should play their role to activate whatever projects in hand, and then to create projects that can be carried out. And then, of course, the other supporting component like the lending institutions, the banks, the fund advisors, and so on should also come in so that the chain of the economy can be activated. Thus, it will create an active, moving economy. And as we have seen some of the projections of unemployment, some are saying that easily it will reach 2.4 million. It can be more. And unemployment is, I would say, is a cancer into the entire change of economy. Everybody must have jobs so that the economy can be rejuvenated and activated. So I think this is talking about the domestic aspect of the economy. And if we just want to depend on the domestic aspect of the economy, it will not be sufficient because government has to be have the connectivity to the outside world. So that is where a global economy has to come in to support the growth of Malaysia. So how does that can be created? And as I mentioned just now, there is an element or segment of MNC, multinational company. Whether we want to believe it or not, once post-COVID, all the respective countries, especially the neighboring countries of Malaysia, like Indonesia, Laos, Thailand, Myanmar, and so on and so forth, they will roll out a lot of attractive packages and so on, so that all these multinational companies can also come into their country. So as a country, Malaysia has to get ready. What can it offer to the multinational company? Because their presence in respect country, especially in Malaysia, is also very, very important. They will bring in the FDI, they will create additional jobs, they will bring in also technology and other things that can activate and build the economy. So I think there is quite very important thing, and I strongly suggest that our very smart community within the politicians need to also play a very important role so that the political stability of Malaysia does not look that volatile to the outside world. So we hope that please just give 1 or 2 years to be brother and sisters, and after that, if they have different opinions and so on, that will be something which the politician can play their respective standing and decision. But the point that I want to touch on here is political stability is very important so that we can pull in the necessary attractions for multinational company to come and invest. Just a little bit of sharing of myself and my team, my management team in Serba Dinamik. We have gone through, I would say, for the past 2 economic downturn recycle. We survive because of the sustainability of the business plan. Those time we are very actively, purely involved in maintenance work. So in a downturn of economy, as long as the factory or the production platform in oil and gas, for example, are still operating, maintenance activities still needs to be carried out. And of course, in this modern decade, value-added kind of capabilities will also enhance and further strengthen the positioning of Serba. And that is where we embark very aggressively on frontier technology like Industrial Revolution 4.0 and other digitalization process that can help and strengthen and enforce these implementations of Industrial Revolution 4.0. So I think in this COVID situation is slightly more disastrous because of the lockdown mechanism which is implemented globally. In the previous two recessions, there is no such situation of lockdown. People can still work, people can still move, and so on and so forth. So how does Serba overcome this? We are lucky, number one, because we operate in quite a wide geographical coverage, 21 or 24 countries globally. Some countries we are very strong, some countries we are quite weak, and we are tapping onto country which the lockdown has not happened to continue to build up the sales revenue that we can do at this time. Those countries that are locked down, of course, we are still involved in essential industry. Majority of it is still running. It's just that additional opportunity and scope we cannot tap onto it because we cannot put in additional or mobilizing additional people. But at least the core contracts and so on still can be ongoing, still can be serviced. And the growth of what our shareholders are expecting is something that we really hope we have to do a lot of chasing after the post-COVID situations. So as an overall, I would say that in brief, sustainability is very important in whatever decisions that we work. Frontier technology has to be enhanced and adopted and understood and acted on into motion. Because all this frontier technology, which Dato Latif has mentioned just now, is very, very important. It gets and helps organizations to improve their productivity and efficiency. And as a result, it will generate more positive outcome to respective asset or organizations. So I think with that, I would like to stop and go into the next round of Q&A perhaps. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dato Karim. Very interesting thought about COVID-19 pandemic. We have a few questions, but I think before we go to the question, I want to pass back to Dato Latif, Dato, because Dato Karim just now already touched a little bit on post-COVID-19. So Dato Latif, what is your thought about post-COVID-19 and what MPC specifically can do to help our businesses and SME to probably accelerate their the keyword that we use for this session is to reboot their business. Dato Latif?
Thank you very much, Dr. Johari here. Now, while we are busy mitigating issues, while we are also busy assessing situation, re-strategizing and all that, I think we need also to be prepared for the post, MCO. Now, I think there need to be some real transformation taking place, right? As I think Dr. Karim, Dato Karim had mentioned, Dr. Karim had mentioned, things must be in motion. It's not just about lip service, it's not just about rhetoric, talking about conceptual, but things must happen. Real transformation must take place, not just lip service. Now, you will see that 76% of SMEs, they are micro enterprises, and they have constraints, not just financial, human capital, managerial capacity, and even market access. Now, this would be the time to start preparing. I think some of these things we may have to go back to the basic. I think first is about the financial management. We have to look at financial management, because to brave these kind of challenges, we should be able to address financial management discipline and also planning, for cash reserve. Right now, I know government has also contributed, a lot, trying to assist. Not just the rakyat, but also to stimulate, the country's economy. The fact is that we have heard about the economic measures taken by the government, which includes, a cash payment to B40, SME stimulus package, and also some of those handouts to reduce cost of living and also doing business. These are all aims to support businesses, especially the SME businesses, and also to assist low and middle income household, and to provide fiscal injection to strengthen our national economy. Now, for post COVID, I think companies, especially SMEs, should start preparing themselves, for that situation. I think it has to go back, to the financial management. Apart from that, as I had mentioned in my earlier part of the session, is to review their current business model. Right? I think there are some of those approaches, methods being used. The conventional way will have to go. You will see that a lot of things are now done online. All right? Payments are made online. Orders are made online. Decisions are made online. Even like our national convention that we used to have every year, we have to do it online. And we have been doing engagement with all our private sector partners, and they told us, I think about 70% agreed they would like to go online, because it's not just about adhering to this MCO instruction, but they are able to save costs because they can still participate from where they are. Our team excellence in a convention, we bring people by the thousands, to about around 2,000 every year. And if we were to leverage on technology, we can still get papers presented. We can still have, sharing of best practices. We can even make payment or receive payment from participants, all done through online. And these are things that we can do. And the participants have also indicated they're also willing to pay, but on a lower scale. Because why? Because the numbers are going to be much more bigger. We have our capacity maximum of 2,000. You have to look at venue. But now, through online, numbers, can be as many as you want. Right? So we can leverage on that. Now, I would also like to share some of the work that MPC does on how we can assist, the industry. Now, I mentioned about Pemuda. Okay, Pemuda, we are the secretariat to Pemuda. Right? The chair is actually the chief secretary to the government, and the co-chair is from the private sector, a captain of industry from the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, and we have reps from the various chambers and all that. Now, do share with us, all right? MPC secretariat, do share with us what are those issues, challenges, assistance that you require, all right? And we are going to use this platform to escalate, some of the recommendations to our stakeholders, whether through the Minister of MITI, we will go through our Secretary General of MITI, and also we can also, bring it up to the National Security Council or even Economic Action Council to mitigate and address some of these issues. If I may share, somewhere just earlier last week, we had our first ever national virtual tourism summit. And we had a registered participants of 2,000 over. And we were able to get the Minister of Tourism herself to be there. YB, Dato Haji Nancy Shukri, she was with us. She was with us. And at the end of that summit, we had an hour session. And we take up questions and issues, concern raised by the industry, especially in the tourism sector. And some of those issues will be able to address at that session itself, and some we had brought up to Pemuda, so that the private sector and also the public sector can address issue together. We're talking about public-private partnership, but at the same time, many of these issues we have also escalated them, to the Ministry of Tourism. We worked through the Secretary General of Mohd, and we believe that many of these issues, problems faced, will be addressed. And we do have various platforms. Now, if I may share, for the tourism sector, we have also agreed that we will be able to provide advisory clinic. And we have a program which we call TVAC, Tourism Virtual Advisory Clinic, which has been launched, a few days back. And at the moment, we receive, a few hundreds of requests for assistance, advice, and also in what way that the government can assist. So what we have done is to look into those issues. We have also engaged with the right, resource person to really diagnose some of those issues and really understand what are problems in the face. Looking into each of those complaint feedback, and how can then we escalate or recommend some of those decision or some of those I would say resolution that we can put forward to the government to address some of those issues brought up by the industry. So these are all done through technology. The summit and also the advisory clinic are all done virtually. So post-COVID, we also need to be prepared. I mentioned about earlier. You can work from where you are, but you can still contribute. Is the issue about office mobility. You don't really need a permanent office physically at one place. You can work from anywhere. I think this is the future, and I've been getting requests also from officers to really work from home. They want to work everywhere. They can work from everywhere. We just need to have a mechanism. We need to have to send KPIs, what are deliveries expected, and then we can monitor on weekly basis. I think this is also one aspect that companies or businesses need to look at. All right, go out the conventional way. Office mobility is also one aspect. And I mentioned earlier about e-commerce and digitalization, changing in consumer habits. I think this leads to the need to really accelerate on digitalization and e-commerce. I think companies may just have to invest. It's not much, I think, these days, even subscription fee to some of these, access to this, technology and information. It doesn't take much. But I think in the long run, it's going to bring a lot of benefit, to businesses. Online payment method, all right, digitalization, applications, as being put rightly by Dato Dr. All this will lead, to higher productivity and better efficiency, in the business process. So I may also like to share here, and as you're all aware, we have what we call our industry forward initiative with regards to industry 4.0, which MITI is spearheading this policy. Now, for companies who are interested to see where they are, they would like to embark on this digitalization. We have what we call the readiness assessment. We can get companies to be assessed, on where they are, how ready they are, and then we can even rate them at what position they are, whether they are under tier 1 or tier 2 or tier 3, and then we can then identify what would be the kind of intervention that the government can do to assist. I think there are also a certain amount of grant which are made available. I think about 20,000 for the assessment to be carried out. And these are all provided by the government. So for those companies which are interested, to really come on board on this readiness assessment for Industry 4.0, you can make your application through MITI portal, which is still open. And we are targeting not less about 500 every year, which need to be assessed. Once they get assessed, and then we will then introduce the appropriate intervention program to get all these companies to come on board on this Industry 4.0. So I agree with Dato Karim. He mentioned it's about sustainability. Because the longer that we are in this pandemic, you will have adverse impact in the economy and also on businesses in Malaysia. And definitely the chain effect will that, we will see, people get laid off, companies are not making businesses, they don't make profit, it will have impact on governments, coffer, revenue of the government, and eventually it will have impact on the public sector, because public sector, their wages salaries depends very much on collection made by the government, especially on taxes, collected, from the business and also the industry. So we have to get prepared. We have to do it now. It's not just about mitigating issues that we have at hand at this point of time, but we need to be prepared also post COVID-19. We need to say, once we are out of this, we would like to be among the first country that will grab whatever opportunity out there, while others are still grappling, struggling, under this pandemic. And the way that we see trends for Malaysia, we could be the first country that is going to emerge. So when you're at the forefront, opportunities are there, you'll be among the first to really grab. But of course, to really make full use of this opportunity, we must also be readily prepared. So we have to start preparing now. As I've said, we can start re-strategizing. We can start, making decision here. We can even review models. We can get connected, do consultation, and all this need to be done through technology. And also, technology will be the way to move forward when we, deal with business, post COVID-19. So this call for collaboration of everyone, not just support by the government. I think the government needs support from the private sector. We have to work together. Definitely, this thing need to be mitigated together through public-private partnership, and I think we can do it together. And we believe that if we remain positive and we view that the challenges that we are facing as opportunities that we can really reap the benefit later. So we have to sit down together, we have to strategize, and then we can then decide what will be the best way to move forward, especially with regards to leveraging on digital technology to mitigate many of these issues and also to bounce back on the track where we were. But again, as I've said, the landscape is going to be very different. Technology is the way to move forward, and that is the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato Latif, for your thoughts. We have very short time actually. Maybe we take a few questions. Related to what you talked just now, Dato Latif, there are a few questions related to that. One is from Haji Jeffrey Ahmad Kambi. I think he mentioned that while digitalization and innovative apps is certainly a solution to our predicament, however, we have to be realistic. Digitalization and apps require one fundamental element, which is connectivity. So I think the issue and the question asked by a few of our attendees is, even though online market is good, even though connectivity is good and so on, we have to be realistic. There are a lot of areas in Malaysia, especially Sabah and Sarawak, that do not have proper connectivity. So this one, I think, related to both the businesses and also to the buyer as well. So the seller and the buyer both have to have good infrastructure and connectivity. So what is your thought about this, Dato Latif? I'll start with you first.
My short answer, whereas we realized about this thing, we had actually prepared a paper in consultation with our Productivity Nexus on digitalization, led by Dato Wei. Dato Wei is from the IT industry. He's also one of commissioner with the Ministry of Multimedia. Now, we had escalated a paper to the National Economic Action Council. We had presented that paper. That was, I think, 1 or 2 months back, before there's a change of government. I think just before change of government, we presented the paper there to the Economic Action Council, chaired by the Prime Minister. And in the presence of the Minister of Housing and Local Government, and also the Minister of Multimedia, all right, the two ministers were there. They supported, they together presented the paper, which was led by the chairman of the Multimedia Commission, Mr. Ishal, he was there at the time. I was together in that meeting too. He was accepted, and we are going to have rapid deployment on development of the physical infrastructure. And we have identified those points, and it is now about really expediting implementation. I know it will take time because you have to look at a budget, you have to work with all the PBTs, because approval at the ground level involves the local authority. So these are things that we need to work within Ministry of Local Government and also with the Multimedia Ministry. So we are looking into that, not just looking. There was already a paper decision was made to proceed. All right, so it is about really expediting the implementation. What I can tell you, since this thing is being brought up again, we're going to use the Pemuda platform to do the follow-up with the respective ministry. They have been tasked to initiate implementation of this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Latif. Dato Karim, there's one question for you. I think it's relevant for you. From Azizan Ahmad. So he said that the question is, many small and medium-sized company can't rely on technology leverage. They are either too expensive or business that require human presence. So from your perspective as a business owner, what is your opinion about investing in technology and also automation?
No, I think investment into automation, investment into technology is something which we cannot ignore, and it has to be done in a fast and also aggressive manner, because technology is talking about bringing improvement. Technology is talking about bringing being the frontier rather than just a follower. So whoever is the frontier, it will benefit. A very simple example is, looks at solar technology. When it started off during the early days, the rates per kilowatt hour is so expensive. But once it propagate and more user and investment put into it, new approach of products have been produced, then the kilowatt per hour rate has dropped so much. It's talking about now something like 21 cent, 19 cent, 80 cent also. People put the investment into it. So to become the frontier, the front runner in terms of technology is very important. And of course, it's always the chicken egg situations saying that SMEs does not have the money, SMEs does not have the funding. But I believe it's the commitment and the desire and understanding to have this into the company has to be put in the respective mindset and heart of every entrepreneur. Then from there, it will move to the next step, how the funding will come in. And I strongly believe, like what I mentioned just now, that there must be a very close collaboration between GLC, PLC, and also SMEs. If the reality is really that the SME could not afford, then the PLC or the GLC should come in to put and build this kind of platform, and SMEs can come in to lease and use it, so that the technology will bring back the efficiencies that is required for other enterprises. Yeah? So what I'm trying to say is, especially post-COVID, I really put a very high hope that people has to be united, whether it is from the political front, whether it is from the entrepreneur business front, and whether it is from the racial community aspect, the NGOs, and so on. Yeah? With this kind of understanding, I believe Malaysian can unite and stand up as a very successful nation. It is easy to say, but if everybody put this in their mind and their heart and really move towards it, I believe if we cannot achieve something like 90%, we can still achieve certain percentage of it, and from there, we can use it as a stepping stone to improve further. So in short, regardless of where we are, whether it is SME or PLC or GLC, technology is something that we cannot ignore, and we have to put the best endeavor to adopt and acquire it.
Thank you, Dr. Karim, for your thoughts. We have reached the 1 hour period, but I think we can extend a little bit because there's a lot of questions. I don't think we can take all the questions, but I'll pick a few which is relevant to our session. Back to Dato Latif, just now you mentioned about industry forward. There is one avenue for SME to sort of leverage on the help from the government. If I'm not mistaken, that grant goes up to 400,000 ringgit, Dato Latif?
Yeah. Yes. There are various grants available, right? I may not have detail of that, but we can always, get further information. We have the SME Corporation, right? We can get hold of them. I think they should be able to provide, detailed information about assistance and also financial grants provided by the government.
Okay, thank you, Dato Latif. Another question. This one to Dato Karim. What is your view on manufacturing utilizing robotic in the future, Dato Karim?
I strongly support this because at the end of the day, especially like Malaysia, we are talking about a higher level skill of status of people. So what it means here is all those words that need labor intensive, need energy, and so on. We can tap onto the developments of robots. And of course, if we want to go into a bit more detail of it, of course, there are some smart things which also needs robots. For example, like if we want to do an investigation job, there must be a fast track kind of analytic capability. So that is where AI can put it and insert it into those robots so that it can do the processing faster as compared to the human brain. So in the general, what I'm trying to say is robots is important, and the entire world is heading towards that. It's just that the understanding of robots has to be a more holistic approach, where it can be modified in accordance to the application and the needs of the industry. And as I always mentioned, all these people see this as a destructive technology because people is believing that it will create unemployment and so on. So to a certain aspect, yes, it will create unemployment, but the industrial leaders and also the political leaders, they will also are very smart people. They will think of other things which can accommodate those unemployment that has been created to move into different areas of employment. And I will say that it's coming in a big way. Whether we like it or we don't like it, is going to happen, and we have to take that as a reality. As a result of that, we have to face it, and we have to acquire and have this capability in this particular technology.
Thank you, Dato Karim. Dato Latif, one question for you from Jeff Lim. Jeff Lim asked question, due to MCO lockdown, all readiness assessment activity on site is postponed. And he said the application for grant approval also take some time, usually months. So he asked how MPC can help to speed up the process in terms of grant approval, and whether the assessment can be done through online way and so on. Dato Latif, this one related to industry forward, I think.
Okay, now we have this MCO, in place. Yes, I think what has been said is true because some of the inspection assessment done, you need to be at the premise of the company, itself. So definitely that would not be able to be done at this point of time. But I agree that we should explore what are other options that we have. Whether there are some assessment that we could do by leveraging on technology, because I would go for the approach where we leave the honors, to the participating companies in the assessment to provide the information, right? It's just like income tax. Those days you have to go to the income tax, you declare and all that. But now you just fill up online. Honors is on you, but if you were caught providing, false information, the penalty is going to be very serious. Now, the fact is, even Inland Revenue Department even says that if they have deducted more from you, they should, reimburse within a month's time. And it's the other way now. They will have to pay certain penalty if the reimbursement is made later than the date that they have promised. So the same thing, I think we will leave it to the owners of the companies concerned. But then this will come under the purview of MITI. Maybe I could also raise this thing, because MPC, we are involved in the readiness assessment for the whole initiative on Industry 4.0. It's under MITI. MITI is the leading ministry. I think these are issues that we can raise and see and explore what available options that we can still proceed, cut down waiting time, be much more efficient and quick in the work that we do, so that some of those issues in terms of waiting time should be able to be addressed. So we take note of that. I will need to discuss with the main secretariat led by BP. And just one more thing, I know that as Dr. Johnny mentioned, there have been a lot of questions coming in. We may not be able to respond now, but what I can say, those questions we are going to compile, collect those questions. The secretariat for this session, which is MPC, we will look at those questions, and then we will respond to each. That is my assurance. All right, we will reply in writing. And for some of those questions which may need to engage you people in person, I think the officers will be contacting you, over the phone to provide, some of the responses to some of the issues raised. So we can still continue. We do not have to wait. I think these are things that we can do through technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato Latif. I think we have reached the 1 hour period. I think I would like to give opportunity to both our guest speaker to give their last thought about this and to summarize. Dato Latif, any last thought, and also summarize of your discussion points?
Well, we are in a position where it is unprecedented before. All right. Well, my English is not that good. So I think these are things that we have to embrace. We have to look at things to be done, differently. I think it's about really leveraging a technology. Technology is a way to move forward, but at the same time, we need to work together. Government and businesses need to work together. We have got Pemuda, public-private partnership. MPC is the secretariat. We are also secretariat to all the 9 productivity nexus of the economic sector. Do contact us, raise your issues to us. We will look into those issues. We will come back to you, and we want to make sure that we can really sail through the challenges that we're facing at the moment, and I believe we can emerge stronger. All right, stay home, work from home, yet we can still remain productive. Leverage on technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Dato Latif. Dato Karim, your last word, your last thought about this?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dato.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to add in a little bit on that question that has been raised up just now regarding new ways of testing COVID. In fact, frontier technology, IR 4.0, like what Dato Abdul Latif has mentioned just now, there are already templates and more or less reaching the end solutions which can be an alternative solution. The problem here is to get access to the data to test out that new options and technology is facing quite a lot of challenges. So what I'm trying to say here is the bureaucratic process within the different institutions has to be loosened, and this can be achieved quite successfully if everybody understands the importance of technology. So as a last word, I solely supported what Dr. Latif mentioned. Technology is the way forward, and as a private sector, we are implementing those kinds of advices, And we also believe that technology is what it can move an organization forward to be successful. Lastly, stay safe.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank our guest speaker yang bagi Dato Latif Haji Abdul Seman, the Director General for MPC, Malaysia Productivity Corporation, and also to Dato Dr. Engineer Mohd Abdullah, the CEO of Serba Dinamik. Thank you very much for your presence today, both of you, Dato Latif, Dato Karim. And to all our attendees, thank you very much for your participation. And then, as what Dato Latif mentioned, some of the question we will take it offline and answer. I believe the recording of this session is also will be provided. So stay safe at home during this MCO. Stay healthy, and God bless you. Thank you very much, and Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. See you too in Kuching. Assalamualaikum.
Wassalam. Thank you.